Hello and good morning. Let's talk Pokemon. In this little video I want to show you guys a short history breakdown of the Pokemon franchise. So without further ado, let's talk about Pokemon. These iconic title screens introduce players all over the globe to the world of Pokemon. In 1996, Nintendo released a game designed by a game design studio called Game Freak in Japan. Pokemon was a smash hit and kids all across the country couldn't get enough from these new pocket monsters. This is how the history of Pokemon began. In October 1999, the Game Boy games Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue were finally released all around the world. With the start of the new millennium, children all across the globe were hooked by Pokemon and wanted to catch them all. In the years 1998 and 1999, the hype and interest around Pokemon was unreal. It felt like Pokemon was everywhere for kids in this generation. It was the biggest and most successful start to a franchise in human history. The game, envisioned by the bug-catching enthusiast Satoshi Tajiri, changed the gaming and franchising landscape forever. With an anime adaptation released in tandem with the games, children were enchanted, and on every playground in the late 90s and early 2000s, kids wanted to catch them all. In the game, players were tasked to go on an adventure and catch all Pokemon for a professor called Oak. On their way through the Kanto region, players would collect 8 badges to get the chance to become the Kanto champion and journey through a whole new Pokemon region. After the immense success of Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, Nintendo released the third mainline game called Pokemon Yellow, where kids could feel like they would play through the anime. And also they released other hits like Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Snap and the massive successful N64 game Pokemon Stadium. But one product was close to as successful as the mainline games: the Pokemon trading card game. These cards were printed like crazy in the early 2000s, and fans could collect all their favorite Pokemon in card form, and they could play with them as well.
If you really want to master Pokemon, you can join the Pokemon Trading Card Game League. You can earn cool badges and become a master trainer. The Team Rocket card game set is in stores now. Go to Wizards.com to find a store near you.
Wizards of the Coast, known for producing Magic the Gathering, got the rights to publish, print and sell the Pokemon card game because of their already established and developed infrastructure to distribute cards all over the world. The card game itself was and still is designed by a little game design studio called Creatures in Japan. Fans wanted to collect all their favorite Pokemon, just like in the Game Boy games, and to this day billions of cards are printed each year to meet the demand of fans. Kids didn't really play the game much, and even though it isn't too hard to play, Wizards tried to introduce them to the game through their Pokemon League system, where fans were taught how to play the Pokemon card game. And even though the game isn't played that much, the cards are still traded on schoolyards and playgrounds alike ever since. The game seemed too easy for card game fans and too hard to get into for the young and freshly infected Pokemon fans. The card game still got played by a community of people, which like to create their favorite teams with the most valuable Pokemon this card game would give them to become victorious over other challengers they meet in this new Pokemon game. The card game was and still is a massive success sales-wise. In the end of 2000, the new Pokemon games Gold and Silver were released. Fans were excited to discover a whole new region and catch the new design Pokemon. Until the release of a game 19 years later, this installment to the franchise would be the second best-selling game in Pokemon history. Together with these new games, new card sets would be introduced to the world as well, and fans would want to collect all of them again. With the release of Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire for the Game Boy Advance, the Pokémon Company took over printing, publishing and selling the Pokémon card game by itself, introducing new and exciting mechanics to the video and the card game. With a new console, new Pokémon games would follow. When Pokémon Diamond and Pearl hit shelves, a new era in the trading card game would be introduced as well. New sets would follow just like they did since the beginning of the story in 1998. When Pokémon Black and White were published in 2010, the cycle of new card sets themed by the video games would repeat. With every new installment, both games were granted new mechanics and things to explore for fans and competitors alike. With the release of the games Pokémon X and Y for the Nintendo 3DS in 2013, Pokémon would be in 3D again for the first time since the release of Pokémon Stadium in the year 2000. With a marketing campaign catered to fans from back in the days, the Pokémon Company tried to get into public discourse again. But the big hype would follow 3 years later in the year 2016. Pokémon Go, or Pokémon Go to the Polls. Together with the game design studio Niantic, Nintendo and the Pokémon Company developed Pokémon's biggest hit yet. Pokémon Go made it possible for players and fans around the world to catch Pokémon outside on their own smartphones in an augmented reality app based on Niantic's success with their previous app Ingress. Everybody got hyped. When the game launched, everybody talked about it. During the first weeks of its inception, it felt like half the world would run around outside to catch all their favorite Pokémon. It was a massive success, and the hype around Pokémon Go put Pokémon back into public discourse again.
All across Manhattan, New York City, there are youngsters, predominantly youngsters, there's some older people too, walking around with their smartphones like this.
Yeah.
Glued to the smartphone. They are playing Pokémon Go. Now look, I don't play, I've never done it, but there are thousands of people doing it. Sandra, this is a genuine phenomenon. We deal all the time in the great movement of politics and money, but this morning, this is a genuine phenomenon, and I've never seen anything like it.
With the release of Pokémon Sun and Moon, the Pokémon Company wanted to capitalize on their big hype. But the game wasn't as successful as its previous installments in the franchise. With the release of the games Pokémon Sword and Shield in 2019 for the Nintendo Switch, there were big controversies about the games because of bad graphics and the limited national decks. Still, the games were sold more than any other games besides the original ones, Pokémon Red and Pokémon Blue. But then the world had to slow down drastically. The pandemic hit in 2020. Players couldn't go out to play Pokémon go on in-person events, or just meet up with friends and play a little bit of Pokémon. Nobody knew how long the lockdown would last, and it was getting quiet. Until a big influencer announced to open a first edition base set Pokémon card booster box, which was worth over $1 million at the time, and so the big box breaking began. Over the year 2021, endless, expensive booster boxes of old Pokémon sets would be broken up in streams all across the internet. This trend brought many investors into the collectible card business, and viewers enjoyed the excitement of hitting expensive cards in the so-called box-breaking streams. The card game would get so much attention, even new release sets would be sold out in days, and the Pokémon Company had to start producing billions of more cards than in the year prior. Another trend in the Pokémon content sphere got big in the same time as well, the so-called Pokémon Nuzlocke. But what exactly is a Nuzlocke? I think Jaden Animation broke it down the best way for you guys.
Within the Pokemon community, there's a set of self-imposed rules you can add to the games to make them more challenging, called a Pokemon Nuzlocke. You can only catch the first Pokemon you run into per route. If a Pokemon faints, it dies, and you can't use it anymore. And you have to nickname your Pokemon to get more attached to them. That means if you aren't careful, you can technically lose a Pokemon game under those conditions.
From ideas even wilder than Nuzlogging to just harder ways to Nuzlocke or the creation of the hardcore Nuzlocke, creators would try to challenge themselves and the community would love to follow them. Fan-made modified games, so-called ROM hacks, would become popular cause they were much harder to master and play through than the original games published by Nintendo. Many streamers would create their own ROM hacks and try to Nuzlocke them by themselves. And in January 2022, the streamer and self-claimed best Nuzlocker in the world, Pokemon Challenges beaten the hardest game to Nuzlocke so far. The infamous Emerald Kaizo. Here is how he finished on his 151st try.
Hit the fucking range! Hit it! We beat Emerald Kaizo! Oh shit!
Lately, most content evolves around Nuzlocke and other kind of tournaments where creators team up to produce more entertaining content. Creators like Pokemon Challenges, Wolfie VGC, Jaden Animations, Ludwig, AlphaRed, Small-Ant, Flygon HG, and many other creators working and developing new ways to entertain you guys in their favorite video games within our favorite franchise. And I think, just like the ROM hacks, there are many things we as a community can do to innovate the ways we can enjoy Pokemon. I have few too many ideas to show you guys, so I thought I started this channel because I want to bring to you guys a lot of new stuff to explore around Pokemon. And hopefully I can do it together with many of these content creators. I know there's so much potential in the world of Pokemon. The ideas I want to share with you guys are all based on the trading card game, because I really love playing card games. I know the trading card game seems a bit too overwhelming for a lot of people, and the current formats you can play this game in aren't too viewer friendly and also not too fun to engage with if you're not completely hooked into playing card games. But I can definitely tell you guys that there are a lot of ways we as a community can shape how we go over playing with certain things like cards. And I know there will be a lot of fun you can have by watching your favorite streamers or other people struggling with the same challenges you struggle with when you play with your friends, just like in the Game Boy games. The game will work a bit differently than the traditional card game you already know, and I also have a lot of other ideas for people which are really into playing the card game. So I hope you guys are interested in the kind of content I want to bring to you guys on my channel, and I also hope you like this little and really short history breakdown I presented to you guys here on YouTube. I will do more content like this if you liked it, and I also will bring you guys a lot of more content about the ideas I have, and I hope you guys want to follow me. If you do, please leave a like, share and subscribe to my channel, and you will see a lot of more content coming to you guys in the next weeks and months. I'm really sorry for my not too good English, but I started talking English outside of classes the first time for this videos here, so I hope you guys liked it and you're fine with my not too good pronunciations and my hick-hacky abgehakt. Was heißt das? Ticked off and my ticked off pronunciation problems. I know it will get better, but it's all about practice. So without further ado, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day waiting for you, and see you guys or hear you guys in my next video. Bye!